It's the year 1914. The Royal Dutch Shell had just struck black gold in the Zumaque oil well in Venezuela. This event would go on to alter the destiny of the nation forever. By 1929, the country was second only to the United States in terms of total output. In 1943, a law was created demanding foreign corporations to give 50% of the profits to the state. Within a span of 5 years, the government's income increased by 6 times its original value. In the 1970s, oil prices exploded, and Venezuela quickly achieved the highest per capita income in Latin America. At this point, oil constituted about 90% of the country's export and almost 60% of the government's income. However, the tides were changing. Venezuelan oil minister Juan Alfonso made a prophetic statement in the year 1976. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you will see, oil will bring us ruin. It is the devil's excrement. And soon, the downfall of the nation would begin. Global oil prices would fall significantly in the 1980s. Inflation was at 80% in 1989, and the country accumulated massive foreign debt. The IMF had to step in and provide a bailout. Under the current dictator, Nicolas Maduro, the GDP fell by 80% between 2014 and 2020, and the country now has the highest inflation rate in the world. Now, in contrast, Norway. The country discovered its oil resources in 1969, long after it had grown its economy through the shipping industry, agriculture, and fishing, and developed a stable democratic system. Soon after the discovery of oil wells, the state declared 10 Commandments of Oil, which provided the guidelines for the usage of oil resources in the nation. The Labour Party government increased spending on social welfare, employment, and subsidies, slowed down oil production in the 1970s to control inflation, and chose not to convert oil export revenue into Norwegian currency so as to control the state dependence on these profits. Today, Norway is regarded as one of the most developed nations in the world.
But what do we really learn from this story? The cautionary tales of the past need to be heeded, and today we shall discuss the significance of learning economic history. Economic history is a branch of historiography that deals with in depth analysis of economic systems and economic school of thought. Economic history is not only the study of the past, but it is much more than that. It is the study of how global economies have evolved over time and how decisions made by individuals and governments have shaped the world which we live in today. It is neither a branch of mainstream economics nor intellectual history. The father of modern economics, Adam Smith, the English economist Thomas Malthus, the German economist Karl Marx, were all classified as political economists who first integrated historical data into economic analysis, which we know today as economic history.
Why study economic history and what are its significance? Economic history is important not only for macroeconomic reasons but also for microeconomic reasons. To study the trends in business, to know about how political ideologies affect the economy and the economic policies of the country, and how the lives of people are affected by the complex and diverse socio-economic cultures of India. It also provides people with the context to understand the economic decisions being made right now. For example, if you want to study the effect of migration, take a period in a history such as partition. If you want to study the effect of GST, observe how and when it came to effect. Economic history also provides us with a way to test economic theories. It supplies us with the essential material to make good economic decisions. For example, we know that when the government prints too much money, the value of money decreases. There is enough historical evidences to suggest this is true. One was the economic crisis in Germany during the rule of Weimar Republic, when the government printed so much paper currency that people had to exchange a pile of money to buy a loaf of bread, as the value of currency was so little. By looking back at history, we can assess the role of government and the policies implemented by nations to shape their economies. It shows us the effectiveness of the policies and provides lessons for the policymakers. For example, the Chinese economic reforms of 1978 introduced an industry-oriented or market-oriented strategy while still maintaining the state control. Special economic zones were implemented to attract the foreign investment and state-owned enterprises. These reforms contributed to China's remarkable economic growth and paved the way for the transformation of global economic power. Economic history also helps us to comprehend the evolution of economic system and institutions. In ancient times, there was a barter system in society and no monetary system prevailed. We can see the transformation from the barter system to the market based economy, and now we have the digital or cashless economy. History is not only about the success but also a record of failures, setbacks, and challenges, and it provides invaluable lessons from past failures and mistakes. One such example is the Indian foreign exchange crisis of 1990s. The crisis was caused by a balance of payment deficit due to excess reliance on imports and other external factors. To address the crisis, the government implemented the 1991 economic reforms or the new economic policy. The economy shifted to a more market oriented approach by promoting LPG policies. India's approach to the 1991 crisis showed that they learned from their mistakes and willing to adopt the necessary policies for the economic growth of the country.
The economic history of India has its roots in the beginnings of Indian civilization in the river valley of Indus. They engaged in long distance trade with far off lands like Iraq, Iran, and Mesopotamia. The historical landscape of India after the decline of Indus Valley civilization was marked by the ambitious Mahajanapada Magadha. The empire of Magadha encompassed most of the northern India, including parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan. They used their abundant resources like coal, iron, etc. for lucrative trade overseas. The fall of Magadha culminated in the rise of Mauryan Empire centered around Pataliputra. Chandragupta Maurya annexed most of the northern and eastern India and developed a systematic administrative system. While the Mauryan Empire annexed and exercised control over most of northern India, southern India was in the hands of empires of Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. They were too engaged in extensive trade, especially with the Roman Empire. In 1192, Muhammad Ghori of Afghanistan defeated Prithviraj Chauhan, establishing the foundation of Delhi Sultanate. The Sultanate lasted till the 16th century. The main source of revenue for the empire was land revenue. During the Sultanate's time, trade in textiles, especially silk, cotton, satin, brocade, etc., flourished with China and Southeast nations, laying the foundation of Silk Road. In the 16th century, the Delhi Sultanate was replaced by one of the most powerful rulers in history, the Mughals, with Babur being the first Mughal ruler. The Mughal reign lasted till 1857. This period was when the country was at peak in terms of wealth and culture and heritage. They actively promoted education, craft, arts, etc. Overseas trade was at its pinnacle. A large majority of the gold and silver bullion of the world was flowing into India.
The Europeans first arrived on the southern west coast of India in Calicut in 1498. They came as traders, but they soon started intervening in the tangled politics of the period. The Portuguese and Dutch also started annexing territories. The advent of the British in India was in 1600s when they came to set up the East India Company under the royal charter of Queen Victoria. They annexed territories under the processes of subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse. India became a colony of the British after 1857. Through the latter part of the 19th century and the beginning of 20th century, the economic conditions of India further weakened. During this period, India was reduced to the mere status of an exporter of raw materials for the upcoming industries in Britain and an importer of finished goods from Britain. India was freed from British rule on the midnight of 15th August 1947. From then on, there were huge improvements in the economy of India, mainly because of the implementation of 5-year plans. Our agriculture sector has revived because of the successful implementation of Green Revolution, which led to a large increase in the yield. Our industrial sector has expanded and the service sector is also showing positive trends. But our industries and economy were not capable of competing in the international market because it was a closed economy till 1991. In 1991, the Finance Minister Manmohan Singh, along with the then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, introduced NEP, New Economic Policy, which focused on liberalization, privatization, and globalization. These measures had negative impacts, no doubt, but they still paved the way for the India that we see today. Currently, the economy of India is showing positive trends. We are one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and our economy was one of the first to revive after the pandemic. Thank you.